Welcome back to part 2 of Jehuty, and I have painted him up. Now my color scheme is probably completely different to what it looks like in the game, but yeah, the first version is in grey, the second version is in a pastel blue, so I thought that I will choose something, somewhere in between, but doesn't want to really follow exactly, so I choose a darker blue than pastel blue. And end up to be slightly darker than the grey as well, but never mind. I think it looks good. Now the color scheme I've go for, I'm gonna take him off the stand first so that it's easier to show it to you. So for all of the blue parts, I've painted them in a more of a French blue color. So it's just a little bit grayish, a little bit bluish color. On this camera, it looks a lot more saturated than in real life. So yeah, it's a little bit grayer than what it looks on the camera right now. Those are just standard spray paints that you can actually buy anywhere. The gold are the gold leaf spray can from Tamiya. So pretty standard, and on top of that, I did put a gloss coat on before I put a matte coat. I did a gloss coat so that I could actually use the Game Workshop Northern Oil to actually darken all of the panel lines. It doesn't show up that well on here, but it shows up a lot better on the back. So Northern Oil actually goes into all of the nooks and crannies to actually darken them in a slightly darker brown color. So it looks pretty nice. All of the black parts are sprayed with Chaos Black, and all of the white parts are left unpainted. Whoops. Press on that too hard. And all of the panel line you can see here are all done in either white or the Space Wolf Gray, or for any of the brighter white parts, I've actually mixed a little bit of light blue into the Space Wolf Gray to give it a slightly darker color. Because if I keep them to the original Space Wolf Gray, it's going to be so light that you can actually see them on any of the parts. So yeah, overall it works out pretty well. I have done a little bit of weathering and smoke effect on some of the parts in using just black and dry brush on, partly to give him a weather effect and makes him look a bit more realistic, and secondly, I made a lot of mistake on this kit. Anywhere with a lot of burnt effect on them are parts that I basically make a lot of mistakes on. So you can see here there's quite a bit on this front edge because yeah, a lot of the blue paints were chipped or got dirty before I managed to put a final coat on. So I put a lot of the burnt effect on the kit to hide them. Same thing happened on this shoulder, but yeah, it just together it looks quite cohesive and actually looks pretty good. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, weathering is not a chore. Weathering is a way to hide your mistake. Anyway, one thing I did not show you on part 1, which I usually does, is articulation. That was because, as I mentioned before, I cut a lot of the parts to aid me in terms of painting. But now they're all stuck together, I can actually show it to you. So the head is on a ball joint, so it can go up and down, left and right a little bit, and it does turn a little bit. However, it doesn't actually do a lot by itself. So down on the neck is another ball joint, so to turn left and right and most of the expression is actually mostly done by that one down there. There's also an extra swivel joint down just underneath that ball joint in the head to raise the neck up, and it's this piece that was actually swiveling. We'll talk about that afterward. the shoulder is actually on a ball joint, which allows it to go forwards and backward a reasonable amount. Mainly the shoulder armor is actually blocking the way. The shoulder armor itself is on a swivel, so it can actually go up and down. So it doesn't go away far enough that you can actually raise the arm high up and down as well. If you tilt this up a little bit to give you some room, the arm can go out about this much. The elbow here is double jointed, but to keep it a more coherent look, it doesn't actually bend that much. Together they bend about 90 degrees, which is fair enough. By doing that, the armor pieces doesn't actually need to be gouged out too much. All of the hands are actually packed in, so they rotate 360, and they have a swivel joint right at the not ankle, right at the wrist, so they go inward outward quite a lot. On the left hand is a shield generator, which is on the ball joint, so it can wiggle around and swivel 360. Now, extra joint to talk about is the shoulder inner part in here. Is on a bar. So, well, on the bar as in it's connected down just behind this blue part, and it actually has a bar go all the way up to the upper part of this gold piece. So what it does is it can wiggle out, as you can see here. And once it wiggle out, it can go up. So add together, his arm can go quite high up and quite low down as well. And as you can see, as I'm doing this, the chest part is actually going up and down because there's a little bar just behind this gold piece, and it's linked to a track on the inner shoulder gold piece. So that's a little bit of gimmick that I did not show you in part 1 because I couldn't. So that's just going to try to push it back in. There we go. There is a double ball joint to link between the upper torso and the bottom and the lower torso. And right now the bar is sitting like that. So if I swivel it out, it goes all the way out to quite an unsightly gap on the back. But by doing that, the whole upper body can swivel around quite a bit. You're not intended to actually pull it all the way up like this. You're going to keep it more or less down and just use whatever is required. But then, when you're done with it, this two-part is actually on a slight interference fit. So as long as you're not too worried about the paint being scratched, you can push them down a bit, and it's more or less lock the upper torso and the lower torso in place. Down at between the waist and the lower torso is another ball joint, so that does swivel left and right a little bit. Yeah, about this much. That's it. Yeah. The cockpit, literally the cockpit, are on a bunch of bars and joints, which allows it to be pulled out and go up to the flight position or the excited position. Yeah. All of these are actually on little ball joints, so this would go around, as you know. The leg. Let's talk about the hip joint. The hip joint is very interesting. The hip joint by itself is basically a bar into a ball joint on the inside of the hip, and it has a swivel, so it can go out a little bit right now. And there isn't a lot of restriction to actually stop it, but because of the armor piece design, when you go up to here, it starts to rub against stuff and doesn't look very good because because the armor piece is actually too close, so it doesn't really go up. What it does though is a concertina joint on the inside, which swivel down quite a lot, as you can see here. It raises basically pull the leg apart from the body, which allows you to swivel it out that much. And with the armor away from the body, you can do a lot more crazy poses. And there is a body cap inside to actually swivel the leg, so you can actually do that. And because of all of the concertina joint in there, means that you can point it forward, backward, basically wherever you want. That is a really, really nice joint in there. The thrusters on the knee is on ball joint, on the ball joint and the swivel, so they can turn almost everywhere and wiggle a little bit in and out. The knee, let's use this knee. The whole knee of itself is a rotational joint, so it can swivel about inward that much, forward that much, so it's about 30 degrees. But once again, there's a bar going down like that, so it's a bit of a concertina joint again. So what you do is you pull it out a little bit, and as you pull it out, you bend it backward. So add them together, it can go over 90 degrees. So it's pretty nice. It's just over 90 degrees, and it's more than enough for Jehuty. Finally, we keep on saying that Jehuty is an orbital frame, so it doesn't actually land on the ground. However, it does have this little thing which comes down and swivel down, and there's a tiny little peg here which can plug in down there to create a heel. So that looking at it, it looks like that Jehuty can actually stand, but he can't. It is way too small for Jehuty to actually stand on the ground properly. You will have so much of a hard time to actually try to balance him on the ground. That is not funny at all. So that is basically it for posability. Now I did leave out a lot of the accessory bit in the first part of the video, so I'm going to show you all of the accessory now. So besides these two wing effect part, which is very, very nice accessory already, Jehuty also comes with a selection of extra hand. So in here we have on the kit is the relaxed hand, which is relaxed and slightly open like this. But he also has a more serious grappling hand. Stop focusing on him. Yep, grappling hand. It has a more stiff stop hand or blocking hand, and a closed fist. Now I'm not quite sure anyone actually noticed it before, but Jehuty actually has three fingers and 2 thumbs, one on each side, which means that actually all of these hands can be swapped between left and right. And you do actually have a pair of each, so it doesn't matter. So they didn't actually rip us off and cheap us out on that one. Also, on the first part of the video, I make something of a mistake, saying that those are missiles. They are not missiles. Those 3 there are options, a bit like the Grandius option, where they just follow the original plane and fly around and do exactly the same thing as the plane by firing shots or going around defending the main unit. So those 3 are options. On the other hand, Jehuty does come with the missiles. He has 6 missiles in total. So they're pretty big size, pretty big compared to Jehuty himself. So what are you going to do with all of this? There's 6 of them, so what can you do? Just hold it like that and dangling around? Well, the Jehuty HD edition comes with an extra part, and that is the ring radar. The ring radar comes with its own little stand, and it's an add-on part to the original stand. So if I'm careful, I'll put the ring radar around Jehuty and plug these two together. And now Jehuty has his ring radar, along with the indicator of an enemy somewhere. Not quite sure if you can actually see it. Probably not. But along with it, on the ring radar are a lot of clear joints. All of them are designed for you to plug the missiles in. So Jehuty with the missiles hovering around him, they're all on ball joint as well, so they can point forward if you want them to. And you can make Jehuty command them to actually fly forward. There you go, that's pretty nice. Jehuty in his flight mode. Just spread the wings. That's pretty beautiful. The wing effect parts really improve on Jehuty's pose, Jehuty's looks in this pose. And finally, Jehuty with all of the accessories in all of his glory. That's pretty impressive. So, in my conclusion, is Jehuty worth it? Oh yes, he's definitely worth it. This, especially the HD edition here, you can see here, he comes with so much stuff, so much accessories, and so much stuff to do that he's just basically perfect representation of a Song of the Enders mech. And if you're thinking that, well, it's a bit boring to actually have just Jehuty, well, remember that Vic Viper is actually released. That looks like a pretty good kit, although there's a lot of speculation that his articulation is not very good. I have a feeling that it might be something similar to Jehuty here, where you might be able to do something about it. And then Anubis is actually coming up, actually just released today, that it will be available this September 2013, and that looks like an amazing kit. It looks a bit expensive, but the Anubis will come with all of his floating wings on the back as well. There's a lot of plastic there. Yeah, that looks amazing as well. And with the two together, it will be a perfect diorama battle scene on your shelves. So in conclusion, if you want to get a interesting and challenging model kit, Jehuty here is definitely going to be a fun kit for you to own. And out of the two, Jehuty HD Edition is definitely the one that you want to go for. With all of these accessories, it greatly improves its play, its fun factor, and its enjoyment. So that is basically it for me. Join me next time for another review.